Hey, Mel Abraham here. I just wanted to jump in here early. We're going to go live. I'm going to just start in just a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to jump in real quickly, let people jump on board and say hello. So hope you are doing well. As you're coming on, do me a favor, say hi. Let me know where you're coming from. So we'll wait for a handful of people to jump in and see what's going on. All right. So I'll get started here just in a couple of minutes, and just wanted to jump in just a touch early and everything to allow people to jump on. Today's going to be an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about how do you master your money emotions. One of the things that we don't realize is how much emotion is in our money conversations and stuff. So, hey, Charles and Deo. Hopefully I got that right. Welcome. So good to see you. As you're jumping on, say hello. I am here in my office in Laguna Beach, and we're getting things rocking and rolling. We've got another minute before we get started. Do me a favor. If you're in one of the Facebook groups and not on my Facebook page, it won't show me your name. It'll show you as Facebook user. And I know that you have a much more respectful name than Facebook user. Do me a favor. Put your name into the chat so I can see it as you're typing things in, and we'll that way I can chat with you more personally. So, and we'll get started in about 60 seconds here. What I want to talk about, like I said, what we're going to talk about today is a bit about the whole idea of the emotional roller coaster that money can bring, investing can bring. What happens? How do we deal with it? What are the things that we need to do to manage that? Because money, well, it's an emotional topic. So let me know as you're jumping in just to say hello. And all right, let's get rocking and rolling. And just hey, if there's anyone that you know that has money challenges or this might be helpful for, do me a favor. Hit the share button. Let's share this thing out. Let's get this message out. Let's get some people out there to help them make a difference in their lives, to change the money conversation that that they have. Nasima is in the house. So good to have you in here. I'm just going to check one more thing, and then let's get rolling. All right. So as you jump in, if you're in one of my Facebook groups, do me a favor, put your name in when you type into the chat so I can see it, and then I can chat with you personally to do that. But here we go. Here's what I want to talk about today. The idea of mastering your money emotions. It's one of the things that I think is a challenge that I see in kind of working with the clients that I've worked with, helping entrepreneurs build their affluence, to build their financial liberation, to use their business as the vehicle to create financial freedom. But all of a sudden, money stuff comes up. And we start to make decisions from an emotional space, from an emotional place. And all of a sudden that starts to drive things in a not so positive way. I guess how you would look at that is a negative way. So what I want to do is talk about what is going on with the money emotions. So I'm going to jump to my iPad here and there. We're going to do some things. We're going to go through some slides. I'm going to do some drawing and writing, and let's have some fun. Do me a favor. If you've got questions, go ahead and post them with a big Q, and I'll make sure that I try to get back to them and answer them as we get to the tail end of this broadcast. All right. So I'm going to jump into the iPad. Let's just jump in here. One of the things that I want to talk about is this whole idea, like I said, of how do we master the money emotions? Because if we're truly going to rise up financially, we need to make sure that we are controlling emotions. The emotions aren't controlling us. One of the things that I've seen over the years is the realization that most people don't even like to talk about money. They say, in fact, I had a conversation. It was actually in a small group, and there was a conversation, and someone asked the question about money, about wealth and everything. And one of the people in the group made the comment saying, "Oh my God, that is private, that is personal, and it can be." But then she said, it's taboo. It's not to be talked about. Therein lies the problem. I totally get personal and private. I'm a private person. I don't talk about things, my personal stuff too often, but I do give it to the point that I think it makes a valid lesson. But here's the thing, taboo, I think that it shouldn't be off limits. If we're not going to have real, true conversations about money, it's going to keep you broke. It's going to keep you broke. And I know that that's a hard thing for me to say, or a tough thing to me to say, but I'm going to be direct. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I'm going to talk about the things that I screwed up, because trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes with money, and I learned from them. The good news is that I've done enough right to be successful. The better news is I've done enough wrong to be educational. And so that's really what I want to do, is I want to have this real conversation with you as we move forward. And so this idea of the money taboo, it's keeping you poor, because if we don't understand the aspects of money, to make the decisions and the conversations to have that in a way, then how do we expect to improve it? How do we expect to move from that? Because money is an emotional thing. The interesting thing is that people will compromise all kinds of things for money. They'll compromise their health. They'll compromise their relationships. They'll compromise their integrity. They'll compromise their ethics. They'll compromise their family. They'll compromise a whole lot of things for this piece of paper we call money. Now, I do not condone that, and I don't think it's the right thing to do. But the problem is that where did we get our money education from? Most of our money education came from observation. We don't get classes. It's not part of the curriculum. We learn our money strategies, our money thinking by observing those that are close to us. And if those that are close to us weren't good with money, or they didn't do well with money, then what are we learning? What are we learning? Kids learn more from observation than they learn from instruction and education, and they will follow suit. I remember when my parents, my mom and dad would argue about money, and it wasn't often, but it did happen. We weren't this wealthy family. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a homemaker. She had the hardest job of all. She took care of two myself, I'm an identical twin. So the two of us. So imagine the two of us, and then my sister that we blamed for everything because she was younger than us. And so my poor mom had the toughest job of all. But when they had conversations and arguments about money, I heard things like, money doesn't grow on trees. I'm not made of money. That, we can't afford that. All those things. And they go into the psyche, and they make a difference, and they make an impact on us, and they start to affect us. In fact, I'd be curious to ask you if you have been exposed to that, and hearing other conversations of money that might actually impact you today, how they may have impacted you today. It's really something that we don't even realize, that when all of a sudden we hear something like money doesn't grow on trees, then all of a sudden someone becomes an absolute workaholic, because they said, I'm never going to be in a situation where I have to be in need of money. Or quite the opposite. They start to learn that money isn't everything, and they don't work, and they just kind of go, yeah, whatever. So there's neither here nor there. It's about acknowledging what's going on in the emotional state. Now, we've watched the stock market go up and down and up and down and up and down, and we saw it drop 30% within 30 days back in March. We are at some of its highest levels currently. There's this roller coaster ride of the market, and there's this traditional emotional ride that we go on when it comes to investing, when it comes to money. And what I want to do is I want to talk about what that ride looks like, because when we understand the emotions that are going to drive things, then we can understand how do we move through them and not be surprised by them. We've got a friend of mine. His name is Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. Now, Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, he's an ex-Ranger, but he's a psychologist, and he spends a lot of time training our military and training law enforcement about the physiological and the psychological impact of combat, of aggression, of violence. Now, he does that primarily because the important thing for them is not to understand it per se, but to be aware how their body might react, to be aware about what their psyche might do and the psychology behind it. Because what happens, and by and large, what ends up putting people in danger is when they get surprised by the emotions, and then they react to the emotions because they didn't expect them, and then they get hurt. And it's the same thing with finance. It's the same thing with money. If we aren't aware of the emotional swings that can come with money, then it surprises us. We make some money decisions that are emotional decisions, and then all of a sudden we make bad decisions. All right. And so let's just look at some of these things. I'm going to jump back down to the iPad here. There's a whole host of emotions that we can go through when it comes to this idea of money. I mean, everything from happiness, to indecisiveness and sadness, panic, surprise. All of these emotions come into play, and we're on this emotional roller coaster. And so what we'll see as I walk you through this is that you're going to see that actually the emotions really start to wreak havoc on us, because we start to make decisions from the emotional places. So let me do this. I'm gonna jump to where I can draw, and let's just jump to here, and let's just talk about this idea of the emotional roller coaster and start to understand where we're at. What happens is that let's assume that this is the stock market. We see the stock market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And what ends up happening is it starts to drive emotions. But the important thing is not the emotions. The important thing is how those emotions start to drive decisions. And those decisions start to drive your wealth either up or down. And if we're not careful, we can get ourselves in a whole heap of trouble. So let's just, at the bottom here, this is where all of a sudden some people will start to come into play, and they go, there's a bit of optimism in the market. They like what they hear. They like what they see. Things are starting to grow. Things are getting in. And what happens is they start to invest here. And you're going to see that there's sometimes a herd mentality. The herd here starts to warm up. They start to jump in. They start to get into the investing game. Now, I'll tell you that this is also how I got caught in a Ponzi scheme. If we're not careful with it, you can get yourself caught in all kinds of bad investments, because they understand the psychology of the emotions that they're playing on. That optimism, as you start to see the market start to go up, that optimism starts to give way to impatience. You feel a level of FOMO, of saying, I'm going to miss out. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out. And what happens is you start to rush in. And sometimes if you're one of those that sees yourself getting in too late and getting out too early, or getting in after most of the run up has happened, and then you panic to get out, these are the things that are driving some of the decision. But that impatience starts to lead to restlessness in the herd. And the herd gets restless, and they start looking around, and they start doing some things where they all of a sudden move into this next phase, which is where they sit back and go, oh my God, I can't wait anymore. And the excitement takes them over, and they turn around and they start buying. And they start buying like a frenzy, because they feel like they got to catch up to the stuff that was already in place. They sat back and say, I missed it, and I need to jump in. This is a mistake. This is a mistake that often is made. This is what I call the gambler's kind of dilemma, when they lose one hand and they think, I got to make it up on the next hand. Listen, if the train left the station, you missed the train. If a stock started to run up, okay, and you didn't buy into the stock, well, you missed it. You don't jump in late. You don't try to catch a moving train. You're going to get hurt. And so we need to understand when we start to feel that excitement coming into play, that maybe that excitement's driving down the logic into this. And I'm going to talk about what to do when you start to feel these emotions, the 5 things that I want you to focus in on to dealing with that. But that excitement, the challenge is that excitement will then lead to overconfidence. Okay, this is a dangerous point, is that we start to lead to overconfidence because now all of a sudden you think that you're infallible, and all of a sudden, but watch what's happening here. You know, if we just look at this, we've got a market that's going up with the emotions, but all of a sudden it's starting to flatten out. This is a point where you don't know whether it's going up or down, and you're overconfident saying, I'm infallible. Things can't go bad. I'm infallible. But that is where you start to have problems, because that overconfidence leads to complacency. And complacency, if you've heard me speak at all, I tell folks, especially in the money game, complacency is the first step to crisis. Complacency is the first step to crisis. So if we start to get overconfident and we say, I can't be touched, I'm good, I know what I'm doing, and we get cocky, we get complacent, and we sit back and we don't make the decisions, we don't come at it with the diligence and the vigilance that we usually happen to do. And then all of a sudden the market starts to turn down like this. Now all of a sudden, instead of complacency and overconfidence, it starts to get replaced with this idea of anxiety. All of a sudden, you're going, uh-oh, now what? Now you've got that roller coaster. You've just come over the top of the roller coaster. It's ready to go for a downhill slide. What a lot of people will do is, this is the point that they start to go in denial. It'll come back. Dangerous words. Dangerous words to sit back and go, it'll come back. And you live in the denial of your past decisions, knowing that maybe I made some bad money decisions. Maybe I made some bad prior money decisions. And now, instead of making a better decision today, and this is what I did in the Ponzi scheme, quite frankly, I got caught in a Ponzi scheme in 2005, wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned. Here's the problem. This guy was driving and playing with all these emotions. And what did I do? I fell right into the trap. Because not only did I invest with him, I started to give him more money. He played with the emotions, and I started to give him more money because I was in denial of the situation. And if you've ever been in that situation, it's not good. And that denial then starts to lead to the realization that this is not going to get better. And all of a sudden you live in regret. You find the emotions of regret, which give way to this whole idea of when we go from regret, now all of a sudden we become fearful. But notice what's happened is that most of the time on this ride down, most people have not made a decision to get out. Most people are sitting there, white knuckling it, and they're holding on. They're holding on for dear God, going, let's get this thing turned around. The problem is that now it's fear-based, and that fear is deep-seated inside of them. And when you start to get from fear and move beyond fear, we get into panic. Okay? We can't make good decisions when we're in a panic state. We need to understand that we need to be looking at the signs, and we'll talk about that, so you can make logical decisions and not emotional decisions. Hopefully you're starting to see how these emotional swings can start to affect your decision, because at some point the panic gets so bad and the beating gets so bad, you've lost 30%, 40%, 50% of what you had invested in this. And what do? You fall into a state of despair. And it's down here where all of a sudden you decide to exit, because you've lost everything already, and you're sitting back and saying, I'm done. I can't take the pain anymore, and I'm done. And this despair sets in. And then all of a sudden, things start to turn around. And from despair, you start to look at things a little differently, because from despair, we all of a sudden start to flatten out again. We all of a sudden start to flatten out again and see where we can go in there. Because just before despair, let me just switch this. Just before despair, we end up in a place where we surrender. We just give in. And we say, have with me the way you will. Have with me the way you will. And let's move forward. Okay. And it's in that point of surrender that you're open to the lessons that can come into play. It's in that point of surrender and that point of despair where you're open to realizing that maybe I need to do things differently. And that starts to lead ourselves to this other piece of emotion, which starts the cycle all over again. And that's hope. Because all of a sudden, as things start to flatten out and then ultimately start to move up again, that hope leads back again into relief and say, oh my gosh, I'm back in the game again. Oh my gosh, which leads us back to exactly where we started from. All of a sudden we become optimists. Optimism comes back in the game, and you're sitting back and saying, I'm back in the game, and you ended up back where you started. The problem is that the fact is that this is a really rough ride to go on. This is a painful ride to go on. This is not how we make our financial decisions. Here's what I know is that it is important to understand whether we're investing, whether we're trading, whether we're speculating, whether we're gambling. Because the market, historically, the stock markets, investments, and even real estate, for the most part, in the long term, goes up. Now, everyone's got a different time horizon. For instance, I'm going to be 60 this year. I've got a different time horizon than my son, who's going to be 31 this year. So we have to look within those confines. But understanding that the market typically goes up in the long term, if we get caught into the emotional swings of market drops and market climbs, then we stand to make decisions from the emotions, all these emotions that I just wrote down, to make decisions from these emotions that really start to not serve us. Because making a decision from panic, making a decision from regret, making a decision from despair, how many of you think that we can make good decisions when it comes to that? Because here's what I know is, if we look at this idea of decision making, there's this idea that I call the emotional intellect loop. Okay. And here's what I have found. And I am just so we're clear, I'm going to come in close just so we're clear. This has happened to me. This is what happened to me in the Ponzi scheme. It's happened to me. Like I said, I have lost a lot of money and I've made a lot of money. But when we turn around and we get caught in what I call the emotional intellect loop, then we start to have a problem. Because here's what the emotional intellect loop is that when our emotions increase and they climb, what you're going to find is your intellect, your financial smarts decline. When we start to make emotional decisions, our financial smarts decline. He says, when we make emotional decisions, this is how we make pennies out of dollars. But when we make logical, planned, strategic decisions, this is how we make dollars out of pennies. Hopefully that, I know that loop too well too. And the key here is that can you find yourself in a place where you understand that it's happening, where you can recognize, if you will, that these emotions are in play and that this is what's going on? Because when you're able to recognize it, then you're able to deal with it. I recognize the emotions in the Ponzi scheme. I didn't deal with it. And the reason I didn't deal with it is because I didn't have a process to deal with it. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through a process that I'm going to give you. It's a 5-step process when things aren't going your way that come into play. So I want to walk you through a framework, actually possibly 2 frameworks here, which I know doesn't surprise anyone, that tells you, what do you do when things don't go your way? What do you do when maybe the market goes against you, an investment goes against you? What do you do to do that? Because I know for me, I've had, like I've said, I've had plenty of investments go bad. Some of them went bad because I made emotionally irrational decisions. Some of them went bad just because an investment goes bad. Look, if everything you touch goes up, something's wrong. Those folks that got caught up in Bernie Madoff's scheme, and it was a scheme, they're constantly seeing everything go up and none of their investments ever lose. It's not realistic. We need to be real. Some of my investments lose. The key is this: I want to create wealth, and I want to create financial liberation, and I want to create affluence. And the way we do that is to make sure that our winners are far greater than our losers. And the way we do that is to have some things in place. So let's just look at this framework of what I think that you need to have in place to make this happen. I'm gonna well, it's right here, so let's just talk it through instead of filling it out. Here's the thing. Here's the first thing that I want every single one of you to do. And if you're watching the replay, please take this to heart. The first thing that you need to do is get knowledge. The first thing you need to do is to figure out what you don't know. Get with people. This is why I have the affluence blueprint. This is why I do what I'm doing these days. This is what I'm driving to. Because too often we think that money is an emotional topic. Investing is a complex topic. Building wealth is hard. All of those kinds of myths and mindsets that are going to hold you back. But we can educate ourselves out of that. We can understand them by making sure that we have the right mentors, that we have the right people on our side, and we're not relinquishing responsibility, but we're delegating their ability to educate us in the process. Getting books, getting into programs, getting into trainings to do that. So the first thing is to gain the knowledge. If you want to invest in the stock market, you do research. We don't invest in things we don't understand. So you want to make sure that you understand this. And so we get knowledge. When my good friend James Wedmore wanted to get into Airbnb, he researched it. He took programs, he read books, he researched, so he understood it. He wasn't just blindly going in. Second, number two is to make sure that you have a plan in place. Okay, too often we just kind of go off half-cocked. Okay. We go off emotional and we start to make decisions. My question for you is that if I'm going to I won't make an investment, and I won't let my clients make an investment until we know where and if it fits into what we call, and one of the things we do in Affluence Blueprint is we create an affluence vision. And it's a lifestyle vision, it's a financial vision, and it's a plan. And one of the things that we look at is that if we're going to make an investment, or if we're going to make a pivot in a business or an investment of some sort, does it fit in the affluence vision? Does it fit into the plan? Because what we need to do is make sure that we set the plan in place. I was just in Sedona, and I drove to Sedona. And, granted, I had a GPS, but that GPS had to know what the destination was, and it had to know where I was starting. And then it mapped the path. And if I got off the path because I needed to use the restroom, wanted to get a snack or something, it remapped the path to make sure that I was going to get to the destination. This is what the plan is for you in this place. If you do not have a proper affluence vision and a plan to move you to your wealth, to move you to financial liberation, then if you get there, by God, it's going to be coincidental at best. And I don't want to leave your financial freedom to coincidence. So the second is the plan. The third, and this is what got me trouble in the Ponzi scheme, is to have rules. Okay, what are your rules? I have more rules about what I invest in, what I don't invest in, and I do rules-based investing. If these things are not true, then I don't care how good of an opportunity is. It's not for me. And I give some of my clients and students, my rules, and they'll fit them for them. But the key is that we don't make arbitrary financial decisions. We make rules-based decisions. We make principle-based decisions. In fact, I'm going to be talking about 5 principles that are key to your wealth in an upcoming masterclass on March 11th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to join, it's free. You can join me there. I'm going to go through the 5 principles, give you some frameworks, and talk about what your next steps are. You can go to melabraham.com/workshop. If someone would just drop that into the comments, that would be great. melabraham.com/workshop. Grab your spot and let's go through it, because I want you to make rules and principle-based financial decisions in your business, in your life, in your investing, because that's our path to getting you onto the path of financial liberation and to give you an affluent lifestyle. That's what I want to do. So now you have rules, you have a plan, and you have knowledge. You've got these. What happens when things don't go the way you want them to go? Because I can assure you, they're not going to go the way you want them to go. Anytime you create a plan, it's not going to go as planned. But still, the process of creating the plan forces you to evaluate options. It forces you to evaluate alternatives. It forces you to reconsider the destination and the path to get there. So these next 2 steps are the things that you need to do when things don't go as planned. Okay. Everything else in the green, these are all going to be done all the time. This is the way we work on this. This is the way I teach my students and the people that I mentor. When things go south, when things don't go well, then there's 2 additional steps I want you to consider. The first is this idea of acknowledging it. This is huge. Acknowledge the mistake or the decision or your responsibility. Now, notice the word I used. No, I'm going to come in closer for you. Notice that the word I used is acknowledge. I didn't say blame. Blame is not what we're looking for. I simply want you to acknowledge that there was a role, there was a responsibility, there was something that came out. Even the Ponzi scheme. It would be easy for me to say, this guy did this to me. And he did. But you know what? Frankly, I had a role in it. I can't be exempt from my role in it, because there was voices in my head that I ignored when I think back on it. There were rules that I had that I ignored when I think back on it. There was my decision to play the game. There was my decision to put more money in. There was my decision to do those things. Granted, he misled and he duped and he lied and he fabricated. Yeah, I get it. But here's the important part of that. Until I was willing to acknowledge that I had some role in it, I was completely paralyzed to feel that I had power to change it. And so the importance of you acknowledging where you are today in your financial world, where you are in a bad financial decision, where you are with your debt, your money, or anything else, where you are in your business is not to blame yourself, but to empower yourself. Because when you acknowledge it, you give yourself the power to change it. You give yourself the power to make a difference. You give yourself the power to make some different direction. And so when I acknowledged it is when I felt empowered to say, all right, what can I do now? And so that first step is really about acknowledging it and not blaming yourself. We don't take the big stick of the past and start beating ourselves up with it, because that does us no good. We've all made bad financial decisions. We all will continue to make bad financial decisions. Hopefully they're less costly. But as soon as we acknowledge it, we learn from it. We can find the lessons and we can build on those lessons, and we make sure they don't happen again. Now, I got an expensive education. I got a PhD twice over with what it cost me in there. You thought the student loan crisis was bad, but let me tell you, All right. But I had to acknowledge it. And with that acknowledgement, some of the rules, some of the principles, some of the things that I talk about today are a result of me losing 1/3 of everything I own in a Ponzi scheme. And it's a result of all the bad decisions and the good decisions that I've made along the road. It's a result of making sure that I make sure that no one else follows those bad decisions and follows the good decisions, the lessons from that. That's the beauty behind all of this. If it's gonna cost us something because we lost money, if it's gonna cost us something because we made bad decisions, well, at least let's put some value back into it by giving it to someone else in the form of lessons, so it doesn't happen to them. And that leads me to the last step on this, and that is this: delay. Now, this may sound odd, but remember, we started this whole thing about emotions. Before you make any decisions, if you made a bad choice, you're in a bad investment, before you make any decisions, delay making a choice. Allow yourself the time to reflect. Allow yourself the time to consider some things. Allow yourself to evaluate the alternatives and the options. Allow yourself the space to do that before acting reactively. Here's the deal. I want you to be able to respond to the things that happen, not react to the things that happen. When we talk about responding to the things that happen, it's our logical brain that takes control of where we're at and starts moving us forward. But when we're reacting, we're emotionally reacting to a stimulus, and we're reacting in that way. Now, that can happen and that can work for us if we train ourselves to do so. Why are military and law enforcement and everything, the good ones, the ones that don't go rogue, okay, they're trained in a way, athletes are trained in a way that it is just ingrained into their muscle tissue to respond to the stimulus that's coming at them. But it didn't happen naturally. It came from training. And it's the same thing with your financial muscles. We just need to train you in a way that you don't make rash emotional decisions to make that happen. So let me give you one last framework that I think that might drive this home, because this is really the cycle of what we're doing, is the emotional spiral. And so if you start to look at this idea of this emotional spiral, this is what can get us into trouble. And so once you understand this, then you can break the cycle. The first thing is this, is that the very first thing that you're going to do is the first thing you're going to do is make a decision. Okay? You're going to make a decision. And that decision will always lead to results. Now, they may or may not be the results that you're looking for, but they're results none the same. And then what happens is that those results, whatever they are, we place a meaning on it, and we have a feeling about it. And you either feel good or you feel bad. You know, you do a launch and it doesn't go as well, and all of a sudden those are the results, and you have this feeling, and then maybe the feeling, you make it mean that I'm a failure, I can't do launches, or I made a bad investment, and therefore I'm not good at investing. And so you create this feeling, and then that feeling leads to your behaviors. So it changes your behavior, because you're making your behaviors off of a feeling that came from results from a prior decision. But based on that behavior, you then make another decision. The problem is that this behavior is a result of these results and the meaning brought it, which means that you're making a new decision tainted by what you just experienced. And if we're not careful, this becomes this spiral of emotion and a regression in a way that we believe that we can't get out of it, that we believe that we're not worthy, that we believe we don't have the capacity, that we believe that we don't have the capability, that we believe that we're not good at business, We're not good with money. We're not good investors. I'll never build wealth. I'll never have a chance to get out of debt. I'm always going to be living check to check. All these things are results of the spiral. Because what's really happening is that very few people have money problems. What they have is behavior problems. And those behaviors are driven by the decisions, the results, and the feelings that we created. It becomes that money emotional spiral. So I hope that this helps you. I hope that this starts to make sense, because here's the deal. More than anything else, I want, and for those of you that know me, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission, and I'm coming out like a bat out of hell in this year, because I'm on a mission, because I think so many people have struggled. 2020 was a rough year. 2020 was a challenging year for a lot of reasons: emotional reasons, financial reasons, business reasons, societal reasons, political reasons, whatever it is. But we don't have to repeat it. It's time that we take control. It's time that we look at it and we say, I can take control back of my life, of my finances, of my financial future, of the legacy, of my family, of my heirs, to be able to make generational change in the lives of those I love. And that's the key. And I got to tell you, from my experience, it's never too late. It doesn't matter what age or stage you are in your life. It's never too late to make that happen. It's something that we can move through if you have the right tools, if you have the right plans, if you have the right strategy, and you have the right guidance, and you have a process to make that happen. So I hope that this serves. I'm going to keep doing some of this, because I really want to drive the point home, and at the same time, I want to be there to support you in your money journey, in your financial liberation journey, in building what I call the affluent entrepreneur, to create someone that truly lives a life of affluence, someone that has a richer lifestyle, has a deeper impact, and has complete freedom, that they're not imprisoned by the dollar or the pound or the lira, whatever it is, but you're not imprisoned by the money. You're not imprisoned by your business, but you're truly free. You're truly free. Free to have an impact, free to make a difference, free to have a legacy, not when you leave this earth, but when you're here, to create it in the moment, to make that difference, to know that you're making generational change. The things that I know that I have done here now are having an impact on my son, his wife, my soon-to-be granddaughter in August, my wife, and the people around me. And that's what I want for you. Know this. I truly believe that possibility and financial freedom is a birthright. And it's your birthright. So let's go out and let's claim it, and let's claim it together. And if I can help you, you let me know. So I'm going to see if there's any questions and everything. But remember, I've got a workshop coming up, free masterclass, going to be about 90 minutes. We're going to train. I'm going to walk through the 3 pillars of what it takes to create financial liberation as an entrepreneur. But also I'm going to walk through the 5 principles that I think are important to really find wealth in today's times, and give you some frameworks to make that happen, and some of the next steps that you can go from there to build that. So go to melabraham.com/workshop. We'll drop that into the comments to make sure that you have access to it, and join me. It's next week, March 11th, 9 a.m. Pacific California time. And let's do this. If you've got questions on anything that I taught here, any money questions, anything that you're challenging with, do me a favor, post it here, and I'll see if there's questions. I'll stick around for a little bit to answer those questions. And post me your name, because sometimes your name doesn't come through, and let's make sure that we get that answered also. So, yeah, Nasima just found out they're having a granddaughter August 2nd. So I am in deep trouble. You talk about spending and you talk about financial. I don't know how you say no to a granddaughter. I mean, what worries me, okay, this is a confession. What worries me is my wife is going to use our granddaughter to do her bidding, to do the dirty work, and come to granddad and go, get granddad to do it. All right. And I just can't say no. I don't know. I'm in trouble. Help me. All right. Chris Andale, she has signed up. I look forward to seeing you. Chris, you are amazing. And so great to have that. That was part of my problem. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't reach out to get educated. This is the problem. And I, there's a lot of people in the financial services industry that probably aren't going to like me for this next statement. But I got nothing to sell to you in the sense of investments. I don't sell investments. I'm selling you on a future. I'm selling you on a legacy. I'm selling you on your future, your legacy. And I want to help you get there. So here's the thing. I believe that our financial services industry has a bias to making things seem complicated because then we become codependent on them. And if it's complicated, we tune out and say, just you deal with it. Just you handle it. And that needs to stop. That needs to stop. It's time that we get back at the helm of our financial ship and we captain our own ship. And they can advise us, they can help us navigate, they can give us the information we need to make the proper decisions, but they're not going to take the wheel because that's when we get in trouble. So I get it. I get it. Justin Brown, love the live trainings. Thank you, my friend. How do you get back up if you're already sunk in massive debt hole after not being able to right the ship? All right. I don't know who this is, and I don't know if you're still on because it says Facebook user. Let's just talk about this for a moment. I was just at an event where I was speaking. I had a young lady come up to me, and she said, "I saw you speak 10 months ago." 10 months ago. And she said, in 10 months, I paid off over $100,000 in debt. And now I'm building wealth. I thought that I'd never get out of it. I thought I'd be paying on the debt for the rest of my life. And what she did, one of the things that we do is that, look, I get it. When you have that burden of debt on your head, it doesn't feel good. So there's a couple things tactically that I would look at. One, we need to have a debt payoff plan, the debt breakthrough calculator. Here's the thing: if you're still on this and listen, and I'll post it in the comment under your comment when we get through. I have a debt breakthrough calculator that you can get access to for free. Just go to melabraham.com/no debt. The first thing we need to do is schedule out your debt. Let's figure out what those payments are. Let's figure out the quickest way to get them paid off, the cheapest way to get them paid off, and let's get you on a plan. Second, we need to find some cash. We need to look for some cash to get you kickstarted on that debt journey. So that may mean that we need to look at side hustles. We need to look at scaling income. And I don't know your personal situation, but there's things we can do. Look, if you just looked around your house, if I looked around my house, there's stuff that is here that all I had to do was put it on OfferUp or Craigslist, and I could make some cash and start getting out. Now, I don't know how much debt you're talking about, but we need to take some, if we want to get our head above water quickly, we need to take some extreme action quickly. So I'm going to post some resources, some things in there. If you're still in here, let me know who you are and just say, hey, and let's see if I can answer that. But this is a huge question, and I totally get that. Hey, Josh, so good to hear. So hopefully this helped. Josh, let me know. And if the debt, the other thing, Josh, is that if the debt is medical debt, which actually, believe it or not, medical debt is one of the greatest contributors to bankruptcy, high six-figure debt. So high six-figure debt. If it's credit card debt, medical debt, I'd get on and start renegotiating with them. Believe me, you can negotiate with them. Here's the key to negotiating the debt. You're not going to go at it with the construct of what can you give me? How are you going to make it work for me? Okay. Well, let me finish this thought and then we'll talk about this because that's a different kind of debt. So if you're going to negotiate any of your debt, what you need to do is come at it with a co-creation of a solution attitude. What I mean by that is this: instead of going into a negotiation saying, what can you do for me? It's how can we create something that gives you what you need and that gets me what I need? I get that I owe you this money. I want to make good on it, but clearly I can't make good on it right now. So what can we do to make this work? But, with reductions and this and that, different animal. Yeah. So to do that. Now, let's just talk a bit about this tax debt. So what Josh is dealing with is something called a tax debt. Now, tax debt in many cases it's not something that we can bankrupt. It is something that we sometimes might be able to negotiate. I don't know if you've tried an offer and compromise. I don't know where it is in collection, if they've leaned any accounts or anything. But one of the first things that I would do is to simply sit back and say, look, And if I recall correctly, you were on a previous live and you mentioned something about getting phantom stock, if I recall correctly, and it never got cashed out, but you ended up picking the value up. What I don't know what conversations you've had, but let's just talk about a couple things. One, the possibility that the valuation of the stock that you picked up as phantom income in the years that you picked it up was misvalued, and that you attack it at the valuation standpoint and say, all right, the valuation is wrong. Now I'm going to give you an example that's an extreme example where there was a gentleman, he was the number 2 in a publicly traded company. I was brought in to value the stock of that publicly traded company because this guy was given 20 million stock options, 20 million stock options. The value of, if I took the 20 million shares times the stock price, it showed up on his W-2 at $939 million. Okay, so we're talking huge numbers here, but here's what we did. We said he can't get rid of the 20 million without it depressing the market. So it's not worth 900 million. It's worth 700 million. It's worth 600 million. And what we did is we said the valuation is wrong. So one of the things I might look at, and I don't know what the statute is on your situation right now, and this is more technical than most, but sounds like a very, yeah. So what we might look at is having a conversation with them saying the income you recognized in that year was incorrect. The income that you recognized in that year was incorrect because the valuation of the stock clearly was incorrect. And see if we can get that to fly. That starts to reduce at least the debt that's involved. Second, if we're not successful at doing that, then the next thing that I would look at, especially if you don't have a lot of assets and wherewithal to pay, is I'd get in there and say, let's do an offer and compromise. Let's see if we can get some sort of payment plan with an offer and compromise, a reduced amount with a cash payment up front and payments, and try to get you out of it. We need to get you some breathing room in doing this. It's not something, it's going to be difficult. And I'm not one that recommends bankruptcy because there are emotional elements to bankruptcy. But tax debt's difficult to bankrupt anyways, because it's just the government. So those are the couple things that I would do right away is I come up with a debt payment plan. But the first thing I would do is I would have you look at the valuation on the income recognition side of it. Then I would look at the ability to possibly go after an offer and compromise to reduce the amount, and then a payment plan to get it paid off. Those are the things that I would do, Josh. I hope that helps, man. I feel for you. Yeah. And I don't know that the bankruptcy will work for you. It just depends on how long and how old the debt is. And I'm not, you would need a bankruptcy attorney to do that. I'm not that. You can do it in some cases, but it's not an easy thing to do. So, but I feel for you, my friend. This is not a good place to be, especially when, clearly you thought you had a benefit coming in and now you end up with a tax bill. I'm going to warn some folks because I was having this conversation last night on another situation where people were talking about the forgiveness of student loans. Okay. Let me, I don't know how it's going to go, if it's even going to come through, but exactly the same position that Josh is in. If they don't write the forgiveness of the loan properly, if Congress doesn't write it properly, here's what's going to happen. Let's say they forgive $50,000 in student loan debt. That becomes income to the person. And if you're not prepared for that, yeah, maybe you don't have to pay the loan back, but now you're going to pay tax on the forgiveness of debt. So that's a phantom type of income where you don't have the cash to pay the tax on something that you had previously received. And so that's the thing. So that's the thing that these things have to play in. So cool. Yeah, I know I'm not a tax attorney. Obviously, I'm a CPA, and I don't know your full situation, but those are more general comments that I think I would really go after. If it's real bad, we may want to get you with a tax attorney that knows how to deal with these people. So. I'm thinking of going negative in my business, so the government owes me money. That is how it works, right? If I profit, I pay a percentage on that. But if I go negative, they will owe me a percentage. Well, not necessarily. Here's how it works. If you paid prior taxes, then you can take the loss and offset the taxes in the past to get a refund of something you paid. But if you didn't pay anything in the past, you won't get a refund. If you didn't pay any taxes in the past and you have a loss this year, you can carry it forward and offset income in prior years. So a loss in your business doesn't get you a refund. Ha! Well, okay, you're right. So I didn't realize you were just kidding, but the bottom line is no, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, the only one that can perpetually seem to operate at a deficit is our governments. So I'm not making a political statement because it doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican, we seem to be operating as deficit, and somewhere, somehow, that math problem's got to get solved. So cool. Other questions? Anything else? And hopefully this helped. Here's the deal, y'all. Brandon. Oh my gosh, Brandon. I'm gonna hunt him down. He's in the middle of a launch too, so I gotta come after him. But no, you're right. It would be nice if they paid us a percentage, but it doesn't work that way. There are some refundable tax credits, but that's it. Hey, if there's any other questions that come up, truly just let me know. I'm here to help. I'm here to support you. Here's the deal. Remember, my whole sole purpose right now is to help y'all find financial liberation, to build an affluent life, to become the affluent entrepreneur that you want to be. This is about finding freedom through your business. It's about scaling your business, but using your business to scale your money, so you have that freedom. Too often we find ourselves imprisoned in our business, and let's not do that anymore. So I'll be back tomorrow. Watch for the time. I'll be posting it in the group. Watch for the time. I'll be back tomorrow. It'll be in the morning tomorrow, so instead of the afternoon. So I'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to have an interesting discussion about why price doesn't matter. All right. So look forward to it. So yeah, I am buds with James Wedmore, but I don't know. Yeah, we both are. So we're all kind of we're all friends. We've all been to Fiji together, and we've all worked on businesses together. We've all had these conversations together. We've all made our mistakes, maybe not together, but we have certainly commiserated about our mistakes together. So I'm going to go on my page. Probably the best place to jump on is get onto my Mel H. Abraham page. I'll be live in all the groups, but I'll also be live on my page. But if you're on my page, I can see who it is that's commenting, and I can respond to you more directly. So I appreciate you all. Remember to join my masterclass next week. Just go to melabraham.com/workshop. I'll see you there. Let's work on giving you the principles that you need to find wealth and affluence in your life, and to scale your money. All right. Be blessed. Have an incredible, incredible day. And I look forward to chatting with you all soon. Cheers. See ya.